Welcome to EdScoop TV. I'm Wyatt Kash, and we're here at the SETDA Leadership Summit. Joining me this morning is Neil Rochelle. Neil is the project lead for the Enhancing Education Through Technology program for Guam, and thank you for coming all this way to be with us.
Pleasure to be here.
Super. I'd like to just ask initially, you're working on a variety of initiatives, obviously. Tell us about one that you and your team are particularly excited about in the past year.
I would think it would have to be the increase in broadband and Wi-Fi throughout the district. In order for kids to get engaged in digital learning, they're going to need to be able to connect, and that's been an issue. Guam is a much larger district than many people would think for a small island. We have 41 schools, public schools, with 32,000 students.
And thinking about the work that you've done, tell us how you feel that that's had an impact on those schools and students, and what lessons would you share with other districts that kind of had similar Wi-Fi and broadband challenges?
Okay. I think that our prize is in what we see in the classroom and what students are doing, how they're engaged in their learning, and not just the sit and get anymore. Students with devices and access to the internet can actually be engaged in the learning, participate in their own learning, take more control, more personalized learning. I think the lessons that folks would need to look at is, one, leadership is essential. I think a lot of us believe that unless you have leadership that's going to validate your initiative, that's going to support the engagement of the teachers, as well as the funding that's necessary, you really need strong leadership to say this is as important as whatever the other initiatives are in the district. I think the other thing has to do with maybe a touchy subject, and that has to do with our selection in promoting the technology in the classrooms. I think many of us assume that we need to and should be taking a position of equity and equal is fair. But when it comes to unveiling the technology and wanting to show and demonstrate that how effective it can be, not all your teachers are engaged, not all your teachers are interested. So to select teachers that you know will be committed, are interested in the amount of learning and the time that it takes to integrate technology in a classroom, could make the difference in the success of your programs.
I think that's a great point. Well, talk to us a little bit about some of the other top priorities taking shape for your group in the coming year.
Okay, well, I think continuing to do the access. So one of the interesting dynamics in Guam is all of our schools, and to do typhoons, et cetera, are all concrete. So, well, many schools will be looking at providing as much access to students, access points that are necessary, and would not necessarily want to put an access point in every single classroom, because a good access point may reach multiple classrooms. In Guam, we're challenged with that concrete, and it is almost necessary to be putting access points in every classroom, and that's an expensive endeavor and takes time. The other thing that we're looking at is to really take a look at professional development. So one of the things that I use is Project of Tomorrow does survey every year on the technology in the country in schools. And after many years of constantly providing professional development, we still have 48% of our teachers that will rate themselves as beginning or novice. To me, I kind of liken that to the medical profession. I think, when we look at future, we're looking at teacher prep programs. I would think we want our teachers to come in with a lot more skills than they seem to be coming out of college with. And I look at, do you want your surgeon to be on the job training? I understand that as new technologies are developed, you'd want them to have continuing ed kinds of things, and teachers should too. But I think there's a basic level that you would want your surgeon to have before you go into an operating room. And honestly, I don't feel that our teachers are coming out prepared for what the digital world is like today for our students.
Well, lastly, as you think about the broader EdTech trends, I'm curious which ones you're paying attention to and that you think will have the most significant impact on education in Guam and the population you serve.
General access, you still have, we look at getting devices for students. So 32,000 students is a lot to say that they need to have their own device. And so how are we going to be able to make sure that there's the connectivity they need and the devices to be able to do the work that we want them to do? The other that I know is just national concern is that homework gap, that you have students that need to work on their assignments from school but don't have connectivity or devices at home. And so if we are expecting kids to be able to meet those standards, that we need to make sure that they have that access. And it should be a collective initiative. When I say that, I mean legislative, policy, et cetera. It seems that responsibility is still with the schools, many of the schools, at least on Guam, to provide that for students and looking at how we can make that possible for kids.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for coming by, sharing some of the things you're working on in Guam, and appreciate your continuing efforts there.
Thank you.
Look for more of our coverage on EdScoop.com. I'm Wyatt Kash. Thanks for watching.